And then there was a massive usability study done in the U.S. Specifically with nonprofit websites, and it was pretty. The findings were pretty sad. Nonprofit websites did not do well in this study, but one of the things that we found, or one of the things that they found rather, was that in looking at completing a transaction online, the biggest single reason that people don't complete a transaction online is because of content-related issues. It's generally because they were unclear about what they were reading, or there was missing information or confusing terms. So not only do you want to make sure your information on your site is concise, you want to make sure it's very, very clear. You want to use plain language as much as possible, and you want to, of course, put the most important information in that first paragraph. Now is not the time to write like a high school essay where you have, your broad statement and then you get more specific and then, you make your point. You want to make your point right away. People will only look at that first paragraph, and then in every sentence of your website and every bullet point of your website, you want to make sure those first words convey the important information that you're trying to explain to people, because people won't have the patience to look for any more information. So one thing that you always need at the top of a page in an intro text is basically what people are going to find on this page. So that's the only intro you need to have. Very simply, are you looking for grants? I'm reading this one in the middle. See our grants page for helpful information, and they can click that page. That tells people exactly what they're going to find there. So a good rule is that if you have offline content that you want to adapt to an online web setting, you want to take that content and cut it in half. You want to make sure that your word count is exactly half of what it was in the in the print content, and you want to take out all of the extra bits, all of the extra flowery language that people will take the time to read offline. They won't take the time to read online, so just the plain, clear language. And I've actually read studies that say that then you want to take that and cut it in half again, and that's when you'll have the right amount of content online. So next let's talk about a scannable layout, and this is the Victoria Foundation, and they have a really great layout on this page. They've got one paragraph, which, as we've noted, is what is as much as anybody will read. So they have that information here. But what's great is that they've got clear section headings on this page and bulleted points so that your eyes are drawn to the key information. I don't have to read this paragraph here. The granting areas are, I can just kind of scan this page. And if I want further information, it's in a bulleted list, and my eyes will definitely go there. So very much avoid blocks of text. You want to break that up with clear headers and bulleted information and short sentences that just provide the key information. Another thing that you want to do is avoid jargon, and again this was part of usability studies where people really lost a lot of trust in organizations where they couldn't kind of figure out clearly what was happening here. And I think we as organizations tend to not have a lot of jargon. We tend to be more sincere, but there are a lot of examples online of companies that use, this is Xerox, so a very big company, and they, and these headings at the top make sense to me, but these ones at the bottom, discover, solve, manage, connect, these are pretty ambiguous, and there's no indication by either the graphic or any text underneath as to what I'm going to find here. This is very frustrating to users, and I would think that a big company like Xerox would avoid this, but they don't. And here's another example of a website. This is, I think, quite a shocking example. This is a company in the building we just moved in with, and I was looking up some of our new neighbors, and this is what I came across. And I think that this really speaks to, obviously they've got they're kind of a marketing firm, and they've got a very young, dynamic audience, and presumably this site works for them. But I imagine if I was a member of, an investor, or if I was a member of the media, I would be turned off by this site. It's too jargony. It's too it doesn't use clear language. I don't know where I'm going to get what. And so I think it's a good caution to remember that the clear menu choices, the clear content is the best content for making people understand your site. The next thing that I want to talk about is to make it easy to contact and connect with your organization. One of the main reasons people use a website or people use the internet is to find a way to get in touch with an organization. And far too many groups and organizations hide this information or make it really hard to find on their website. And there were I didn't see too many examples of this when I looked through Community Foundation websites, so I think that's something that you guys are doing really well. You want to make sure that either in your top navigation or your side navigation that people can click a Contact Us button, and that when they get to a contact page it has full mailing, phone, fax, and email information. So people want to be able to have different ways to connect. I think gone are the days of people being patient with a form that you would fill out on a website that goes somewhere. They want an actual email address or an actual phone number. I also have pulled this other example from the Lethbridge, the Community Foundation of Lethbridge in southwestern Alberta, because I think that it's becoming more and more of a convention to have full title and name of your staff members. I find this frustrating when I'm wanting to call an organization and I can't find who their marketing person is or who their fundraising person is. I think more and more we're going to want to find kind of who those people are at the organization. So it's a good idea to put their full contact information. And I know sometimes we're nervous about doing that. We're afraid that we're going to get a bunch of unwanted phone calls from people. But I think the risks of getting unwanted phone calls actually is small compared to the benefits of actually providing clear information about who the organization is kind of behind the corporate structure. And increasingly, of course, with the advent of social media, we want to make a personal connection with organizations and know that there are real people working there. So that's a good reason to put names and titles of people at your organization. The web is becoming much more of a social place than it ever has been. We're not going into social media today, but I wanted to say in terms of your website, if you do have social media communities, you need to make it easy for people to connect to those communities, and it's increasingly becoming a convention rather, to link to your communities in a visual way right from the homepage of your website. So I think where CFC, where Community Foundations of Canada has them in the bottom right, is exactly a good spot because people are looking to this bottom section for ways to connect. You could also have it in the contact section or maybe under these other graphics, but somewhere on that homepage and persistently throughout your website you want to make sure that there are ways to connect with your social communities. And these are becoming new website conventions, right? So maybe in 2 or 3 or 4 years we'll have different website conventions for where to advertise these communities, or maybe we'll all not have any websites anymore and we'll just use Facebook, who knows. The next tip that I have, and I know it's hard for a lot of us with websites, is to keep them up to date. To really avoid having information on your website that is out of date. There is a lapse, there's a real missing trust when someone goes to your website and sees, the 2006 golf tournament information. That's going to say, is this organization even active? Do I really want to invest in this organization? Are people even still working here? You obviously really want to avoid those questions. So make sure that you have a way of keeping your website up to date. If you don't have a way of keeping your website up to date, I think that it's better to have some generic information about your key initiatives, like want to find out about this year's golf tournament, email, and then put someone's email in there, email this person for details and put the email address so that you avoid the issue of having out-of-date information on the site. You can just have information that works year to year. But one of the things that I think most organizations should have for their websites, if they don't already, is a content management system. So a way for a layperson, so someone who's not a techie, to go into your website and without a lot of HTML knowledge, update the various sections of your website. So work with your web developer or work with a pre-existing content management tool so that you can log in and make those changes as easily as you would update a Word document, for example.